The next one, I think for me, with the squad that Chelsea has, again, to be sitting 12th, and the Cherries are no easy walkover, Chelsea, to me, have looked pretty anemic.
You know what's funny is just the fact that there's always an excuse for why Chelsea aren't performing, and everyone kind of just accepts it,
and the conclusion usually is more money.
Yeah.
More money is needed.
And it's just, it's absurd, actually. But I suppose, maybe a club with not as much traditional history as the other top 6 sides, so there's almost this lack of expectation to kind of bring it back to like...
I feel like it's also like we'll win eventually.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of thing. It's like they've had rough patches before, but I don't know, they'll win eventually.
Yeah,
it's kind of
something.
Yeah.
But I agree, Kev, it's hard not to agree with what you're saying because the results speak for themselves. It's been some absolute shockers.
Yeah, it's kind of, see, we still got the hangover of a team that unified after the FIFA ruling, or UEFA ruling that they couldn't go into the transfer market, and that only got them so far. And I think that the year that happened, you had who's their coach? What's that coach guy? What's his name?
Tuchel or Lampard?
Lampard. We had Frank Lampard in there that didn't have much to spend, and then developed some players that performed pretty well that year. Probably overachieved, and then the next year they go and spend an absolute fortune on bringing in so many different players and undercutting the culture that helped you have a pretty good year, being disallowed to purchase through the transfer market, and you undo all that work. So since that time, since the season where Lampard had an unlimited checkbook and sort of threw his development season the previous year under the bus, they've been nowhere.
Yeah.
I think you could almost argue that Chelsea don't have a culture, like you're saying, like they're a more recently successful team, that they don't have a culture of developing from within. They develop a lot of young players, but they're almost seen as a way of balancing
business strategy.
The books. It's that they don't actually care if they have a starting 11 of players from their academy, because at the end of the day, they look at it like it's a way of balancing the books, so that a player from your academy counts 100% to financial fair play. So it's like, we want to spend 200 million this year. How do we do that? We sell 3 of the best young prospects like in England, and you know what, they don't care, and their fans don't really mind either. Whereas if it was Liverpool, if Liverpool sold Trent Alexander-Arnold for 30-40 million pounds when he was just about to break onto the scene, I think Liverpool fans would be pretty upset by that, because it's selling a local
homebred
star,
Well, I think that's what I was saying, is there's almost this like lack of expectation to go within and fix the problems at a grassroots level.
Bonus if there is someone that comes through and they stay and they're good enough.
Yeah, and I think the Chelsea fan base very much just thrives, and I think the owners and stuff thrive too on this hope and the excitement around. Like we've had discussions before about how the transfer season for the Premier League is arguably more exciting than the start of the Premier League itself. And I think every year the Chelsea fans go through the same thing. So it's an interesting routine that they've developed, but we are off on a bit of a tangent here. At the end of the day, do they beat Bournemouth and bounce back from, who was it that they lost to? Forest last week, Bournemouth away, Kev, like you said, also not just easy to go.
Not a walk in the park whatsoever.
Put a bunch of points past. But I would just like to think, and maybe I'm going to find myself saying this every week with Chelsea, but this is the week. I'm going to go 2-0 to Chelsea.
Okay.
Bill, I'll let you go, because I'm a bit on the fence on this one.
So I also, every week I back Chelsea, they disappoint me. So I think we might see a similar performance to the West Ham away performance, where they're dominant. Even against Forest, they were dominant for most of the game, but they just cannot seem to score goals. They are struggling to, Sterling and Jackson are trying so hard, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of goal spread throughout the team. If Jackson and Sterling don't score, no one does.
Yeah.
And I can see that exact same thing happening this weekend, where Bournemouth, they're similar to Brentford and, those type of teams this season where they're not just going to sit back and let you play anymore. They're going to actually put you under pressure. They're going to want to score goals. And I can see Chelsea having most of the chances, but if they don't score the first goal, I could see exactly what happened to Forest, where second half, a counter-attack, they score, and then they have no penetration to come back. But I think, it's got to be Chelsea's week this week. It has to be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's never going to come right. So I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea. I think Bournemouth will score.
Yeah, very, very, very provocative words you're using there, Dylan. Penetration and all that stuff. I hope your mum's not watching. I think that I'm going to have to go for a Chelsea win. There's no science behind it because, like you say, but I just got to feel that a bit of the quality that's on that team has to come through. They've got Pochettino. He's a good enough coach.
It's good enough.
So I've got a 2-1 Chelsea win, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's a draw. But, it's not a game I'd bet on anyway. But, yeah, I'm going to go Chelsea 2-1.
Arsenal-Everton. So I think maybe arguably the other team, if you want to ask a question of whether Newcastle's been, the most disappointing so far. But let's chat a little bit about Arsenal because it hasn't been quite the start we expected from them. But
they're still getting points.
They're still getting points.
What? Hold a second. They beat up Man United 3-1. Beat Crystal Palace away. Beat Nottingham, who've turned at home. So they've got 10 out of 12 points. I think that's if my math is correct, that's 83% success rate.
Well, yeah, I suppose maybe it's a bit harsh, but I think, like Dill's saying, is the nature of their performances. It hasn't been what we expected. It's been bringing in players and not much actually changing, or looks
doesn't
like it's
feel
developing.
like they're at the next level.
Yeah.
They're still getting points. They're still winning games, but they aren't. I don't know. I feel like maybe our expectations are too high because last season they started so well, but they, against United, the scoreline flattered them 100%. They were.
Well, I think my thing more is that are disappointing in the sense that if we're going to speak about Arsenal as title contenders in this day and age, that's not the kind of start you have as a title contender. It's like you need to have won all of those games, and convincingly so. I suppose,
or at least one convincing one. I don't think they've had a 100% convincing one this season, which has maybe kind of been underwhelming,
Yeah.
But Everton at 100%.
I forgot you guys are Zoomers, and you have no patience, no time for anything. I get your point that they haven't blown teams away, but I don't have the expectations. You got four teams on 10 points, that 83% success rate, and you've got one team with 100% success rate. If they'd have drawn a game, you'd have a 5-team first place tie in the Premier League.
Against Everton though,
I think
Easy.
I think you remembering that it is the Premier League, and we tend to put too much into a short body of work, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's a month's a long time in the Premier League.
For sure.
Just like a week in rugby can be an eternity. But anyway, so you're massively disappointed. Probably a lot of Arsenal fans. I hope you get some hate mail from the Arsenal contingent.
But I mean, against Everton,
This will
I
be
think
their
we
blowout.
generally
This
agree
will be the
on.
one where this will be the one where they prove us wrong.
3-0 Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think 3-0. I'm going to give Everton a goal. Just because I don't think
I've got 2-0. Sorry.
Arsenal are very good defensively at the moment. They are conceding goals. So I'm going to go 3-1. Even though I think Everton are terrible, I'm just going to go 3-1 Arsenal.
I agree with it. The difference in the goals, but 2-0 for me, Arsenal.
All right, and then the cracking final game on Monday, Nottingham Forest versus Burnley.
Oh,
Yeah, look, Burnley. When you look at them straight up, it's a goal difference of 11 goals against. But then look at the teams that they've played. You know, they played Man City, they played Tottenham, and they played Aston Villa. All teams that are scoring goals for fun this year.
Yeah.
So the game's in Forest. Look, I'm gonna have to call this one a draw. I think that Burnley's not as bad as their record shows, and Forest won't be unhappy with the draw. But it certainly offers Burnley a bit of a respite from teams, including Aston Villa, who I think are going to be in the top half of the table this year, and two teams that are contending. So I'm going to say Forest 1, Burnley 1.
I like Forest to still win this one. I'm going to go 1-0 to Forest.
So I'm going to go the other way. Just because I think Burnley are starting to get more confident, but they're also starting to score more goals. I mean, they were 1-0 up against Spurs. First half against Spurs, they were causing some serious problems. I think Forest at home is going to be difficult, but I'm going to go 2-1 Burnley.
Cool.
Yeah.
Our first disagreement of the...
Yeah.
All right, Kev, well, hopefully this time next week we'll be able to shoot with you in person. If you ever decide to come back.
Don't stop on any Boy Scout camps along the way.
No, I'm looking forward to returning home, lads. And yeah, thanks for having me on my show. And good luck with your betting this weekend. There's actually there's some good accumulator potential this weekend, you know?
Yeah. You must chuck an accumulator up on the MoneyMan Facebook. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Okay, guys. Thanks very much. Thanks, Dylan. Thanks, all. See you guys.